A very good day and welcome to the Breakfast Club on Asake Online. My name is Sizwakele Ndlovu. On the program today, we are going to be discussing a very important component that makes up our lives. And I'm not talking about US dollars, I'm talking about water. Water is life. And with me on the program is Engineer Gwetu to have a discussion with me about the water situation in Bulawayo, the history of this region in terms of water. And just to give us an understanding, a general understanding of where the city of Bulawayo stands, their challenges and issues, and give us a picture of the past, the present, and the future. Engineer Gwetu, thank you so much for being on the Breakfast Club.
Thank you for having me.
Let's just get straight to the conversation. Engineer, I was doing a bit of reading and our issues, and we are, as residents, are always in an uproar. We've got all these issues. Amanza, there's no water supplies. They're telling us about pumps and all that. But before we get into those issues of the management of water, can you tell us a bit about each region of Bulawayo in terms of water supplies? Where are we standing anyway in the greater scheme of things?
Right. Bulawayo is a natural region 4. Zimbabwe has got natural regions which are demarcated in terms of the available rainfall and precipitation plus runoff. We are in natural region 4, but you know, the most interesting thing is most of our water sources lie in natural region 5, that is Matabeleland South. The city has got dams, the open water sources, open surface water sources in natural region 5. And then, of course, we've got another water source, which is in natural region 4, that is in Ndlovu, the aquifer. Right, so natural region 5, where we have got our water sources, the open and surface water sources, is characterized by low rainfall. Low rainfall, erratic rainfall. What has been happening over the decades? You see, we also have been affected by the climate change. What we've been witnessing in other countries as floods, we've been witnessing as very, very low rainfall. You will realize that for a number of years, Bulawayo has always been, over a decade, Bulawayo has been in one form of water management strategy. Take, for instance, right now, we are not shedding, but we are rationing. Right. It's been quite some time when we had unrestricted water consumption. All this is evidence of a climatic shift in natural region 5 as well in natural region 4. Right. So basically that's where we were and that's where we are.
I would like to get a bit more information. You mentioned shedding versus rationing. To me, it sounds all the same. There's no water or there's limited water supplies. What is the actual difference between the two?
Right. In any water situation which has got a potential to result in a crisis, water management has got levels to preempt a potential crisis. In terms of the city, we normally do what we call public awareness campaigns, where we utilize public platform to conscientize our residents on the need to conserve water. This need to conserve water is a resultant of what we call storage in our water sources, our dams. Right. So our storage over the years, at the end of each rain season, has not been at satisfactory levels. For satisfactory levels to be realized, our storage needs to be upwards of 70% of the total combined dam capacities. Above 70%. Right. Now, if you look at it, when we are less than 70%, take for instance, I'll use the now. Currently, we are in the second half of the rain season. The rain season, according to the Meteorological Office, should end officially in April. We've got how many months before April? 2.5, thereabout.
Yes.
Right. But interestingly, as of today, this morning, our total storage in our dams, it's only equivalent to 60%, 60.60. Right. So, and as it is, remember I said we are rationing. We are conscientizing, first of all, we conscientize the public to say, let's conserve water. This is the state of our dams. Water usage is a habit. So when we utilize public platform, we are appealing to residents to say, let's change our water usage into those methods and uses and practice that seeks to conserve the resource. Where I'm used to bathing using 20 liters, I'm used to it. It takes time and practice over a period of time for me to start using 10 liters. So by and by, we conscientize. After conscientizing, we check whether our consumption has come down as a city. If the consumption has not come down, we get to the next level where we ration each household to say, you cannot go beyond 500 liters a day. You cannot go beyond 600 liters a day, depending on the class of consumer. Right. So, if after introducing rationing, still the consumption has not come down to desired levels, we then graduate to shedding. But shedding now is a variable and a function of how many dams are operational and how much are we getting from those dams. So these are the levels which we as the City of Bulawayo engage in terms of water resources management. Having so said, I think it will be interesting as we go further looking at the City of Bulawayo's water sources. When do we get into shedding? What would have happened for us to say now we are getting into shedding? Besides the consumption, there's other elements like abstraction, available abstraction. What do we have in the dams? What can we take off from the dams vis-a-vis the consumption?
You put it across in a very simple, understandable way. So as residents, we are being conscientized to say, let us conserve water. I liked what you said. You said water usage is a habit. So if we've learned bad habits, we have to unlearn those habits. And come rain, come shine. Well, if the rain doesn't come, then we'll have to change our habits faster.
Yes.
So there's a conscientization aspect. And if we don't listen, then we go to rationing.
Yes.
And then we say, okay, fine, you don't want to govern yourselves. Let us govern you.
Let's assist you
yes.
revisit your water usage habits.
Yes. And then if we are unrationable, if we fail to stick to the rations that are going to help us have water for a longer period, then the shedding comes in. Okay, no, that's been very informative. I'm actually a bit surprised because I thought I was a very well-educated citizen, and I feel that certain things like this, I should know this, and every resident should know this. So in terms of the public awareness and campaigns, what activities have been undertaken? And going forward, what do you think can be done to actually reach out to people? Because for me, I feel that sometimes the communication we get, or maybe it's what I choose to acknowledge, I see the water shedding, the notices, or the bills saying your bills are overdue, we're going to cut you off, there's going to be an exercise. I don't seem to be aware of the public, the conscientization, the carrot ones, the carrot messages, as opposed to the stick ones. Am I missing it somewhere? What are the activities? Maybe it's something for me to actively look out for as well, and for our residents to look out for, to say, that is actually a publicity campaign and I might not be aware.
Thank you. In terms of our public awareness campaigns, the most active arm of council in that area is our corporate communications office, headed by Mrs. Ndlovu, and also working with Ms. Bongiwe Ngwenya. Right, periodically, they utilize public platforms such as the ZITF. They hold workshops, community workshops. They take advantage of community meetings which are held by policymakers in their respective wards. They come in there, they make the public aware of the state. What is critical is we have to constantly make the public aware of the state of our water sources. Then we have to go further and say, what are we getting from these water sources? Every day, the city, in the morning, before 8:30, we look at what we abstracted yesterday in the last 24 hours. From 7 a.m. yesterday to 7 a.m. this morning, we prepare what we call daily water statistics. How much did we abstract at Umzingwane? How much did we abstract at Lower Ncema? How much did we abstract at Insiza? After abstraction, there is the issue of pumping and conveyance. How much did we pump raw water to Ncema, our first treatment works at Escotini? Right. Then how much water was treated for the city's needs at Escotini, and how much raw water was further transmitted to Criterion Benside for further treatment? These are the logistics which we looked into. And then we say, how much total combined treated water, inclusive of the Ndlovu aquifer water, went into the system? By system, I mean the Bulawayo network. The network involves the pipelines which ferry the water into each household, and also the city reservoirs. How much did we put into the system? How much did the city consume? Right. So check now. We've got two interesting parameters. Actually, three. How much did we get from the dams as raw water? How much did we treat and put into the system, what we call the system input volume? Then third parameter, how much did the city consume? After consumption, we are looking at the reservoir levels within the city. The hillside reservoir, at what level is it? Today, is it fit enough to continuously supply The Magwekwe Reservoir, at what level is it? Is it fit for it to continuously supply? So this is the situation which we meet with, which we look into. It's a war room situation every morning, analyzing data, making informed decisions. Yes, we are ready to take Bulawayo on for the next 24 hours. In case of an interruption in treatment, let's say there's a power outage at Criterion, we have to know we're going to be stopping to treat for how long, the effect on the reservoir levels. If there is a problem on our water mains from outside the sources, how much time are we having to repair? That's why you start seeing now the notices on social media advising Bulawayo to say, we have got this challenge, but we are working flat out. In the meanwhile, be aware that there is a possibility of interruption in water supply. So basically that's that.
So the rainfalls, we gather it, we treat it, and then we send it out. And then we monitor how much has been consumed. It's quite a process. I never actually looked at it like, well, not that it was my job to look at it like that. But when it rains, when you have really good rains, and I'm going back to the further point where you said, our dams, most of our dams are in natural region 5. So even if it's necessary, it's rained heavily in Bulawayo, it does not mean that in region 5 where our dams are, it rained. So, because I see this, I was looking at some of the social media comments, they've always been there like, oh, it rained, how can you be giving us water rationing, water shedding, we've got no water, but it rained heavily for the past, like last week, the last 4 or 5 weeks. It's been raining heavily, being pelted, it felt like we need canoes. And then City Council, we get a report to say, oh, you're saying the dams are 60%, like,
oh, that rain.
Oh, that rain, less Valalina, you're just trying to get us to make sure we conserve water. You're forcing us to use water in a certain way. But those are the dynamics that are on the ground. Mm-hmm. It rained here, it didn't rain there. Mm-hmm. And it is what it is. And also, you're now mentioning the aspect of there's the pumping. Mm-hmm. There's the getting the water. Yes. Abstraction, what is that in normal English?
Right, abstraction is the taking of the water from the dam. The dam is the storage. Well, of course, let's look at it this way. We have got precipitation, rainfall, then percolation and infiltration into the ground.
Geography lesson.
Yes, and then saturation of the soil. Once the soil is saturated, then we have got runoff now. Runoff into the dams, into the rivers, streams, rivers, dams. And as it comes into the dams, we start saying inflows now. The dam starts appreciating. And then we start abstracting. From abstraction, we then convey through pipe networks. Right, big pipes, which we call bulk mains. The diameters, they are ranging from about 600 to almost a meter in diameter, right? So we convey, first of all, for Bulawayo, we abstract from our dams, and all pipes lead to NEMA treatment works. NEMA then, out of the raw water, treats for 1/3 of the city's requirements. And then, how do we meet the 2/3 balance? Raw water is then conveyed to Criterion, our largest water treatment plant, which then meets the balance 2/3 of the city's requirements. So that's abstraction, that's...
It just felt like a geography lesson. I think tonight I'll have nightmares thinking I'm back at school when I'm replaying this conversation. So it is very interesting. So we have abstracted, we have treated, and then you mentioned that at every single point in time, the consumption, how much water has the city consumed in 24 hours? And then that then has a bearing on like, okay, our water levels do not meet your current consumption, slow down. And obviously there'll be other variables that affect our water consumption. If there are power shortages, yes, the weather, yes, and evaporation, I learned something. It's the weather, it's power outages, and disease. If there's an outbreak, for example, we're told to wash our hands. Every single time we touch anything or touch our eyes, go wash your hands. So things like COVID and other, or dysentery or whatever, diarrhea, if there's an outbreak, that already shoots up the water consumption, and that's something that has to be considered as well, say, in planning as well. And also the case of cleaning materials, Forex. If there's no Forex to buy cleaning our chemicals and maintain stocks, there are so many variables that are only coming to light in my head now. So, oh, okay. So when you say you have challenges, those are some of the challenges that you'll face that have nothing to do with us, but everything to do with us.
Thank you. Take, for instance, we've got our first line of treatment. In terms of abstraction of raw water, we don't just abstract from any depth. There is a particular level within the dam whereby the water has got what we call desirable oxygen levels. The oxygen level and also the suspended material levels in a sample of raw water have got a determining effect on the amount of chemicals that we are going to use in treating the water. So, during the rain season, we've got high turbidity. That is, there is lots of soil particles, suspended soil particles within the water body, such that our first line of chemical, which we call aluminum sulfate, the usage almost doubles per day. But the situation is not like that during winter when there is no rain. Turbidity is low, and the chemicals, in terms of our first line of treatment, they go down. What does not change much is the final disinfecting chemical, which is chlorine. So basically, you're right. You're getting your geography good.
Shout out to my mother. She's a fantastic geography teacher. So now we come to the issue of power outages. I'm enjoying the discussion, but I have to bring it back to the issue of notices. There's no power here, therefore there'll be no pumping, and all these things, and general electricity woes that are bedeviling, I would say. Not just Zimbabwe. I mean, we're reading about South Africa and their load shedding and all those things. My first question around power sources: are there any other alternative power sources other than electricity that can be used to pump and keep us going? So if electricity is not there, the one that we get through from ZETDC, are there no alternatives? Was there a plan before? I mean, we are such a hot, sunny place. Surely, I feel that are there no alternatives?
Thank you very much. As the City of Bulawayo, we are exploring those alternatives. The issue of solar energy, we are exploring that alternative. Of course, such explorations at times have to be backed up by funding. Such investments and incursions into those areas need financial muscle. I'm happy to say that we are looking into it, especially for Ncema and Fennel. Fennel is our booster station between Bulawayo and Ncema at Eskodini. So yes, we hope by and in time, we should reach a state to say, let's invest in this. We now have got adequate resources, or we've found partners to partner with the city in that element.
When Bulawayo was built, could there be okay, this is going to be a question, obviously it's very speculative. Could have been a bit of a site to place Bulawayo in terms of water supply than where it is now, and maybe people are not aware. Could we have been, where would we be better placed to say, growing population, second largest city, if we could go back in time 200 years ago, where would you place us?
Right. Let me say, let's look at Mat North. Mat North is characterized by the Kalahari soils. In Ndebele, we call it Upu. You remember when we went geography, when we said precipitation, percolation, infiltration, saturation of soil media, then runoff. Kalahari soils versus Mat South soils. It would take amounts and amounts of rainfall to percolate and infiltrate into the Kalahari soils and consequently get run off. So the Mat South soils are firm, right? You have got less pore spaces in firm soil. So consequently, you will realize that Mat South has got more dams than Mat North. The issue of soils, the geology, the geography. Right, so consequently, that's one other influencing factor which made us say our predecessors look at Mat South as the seat of our water sources. But well, just to end it up on that perspective, Mat North has got also its strength, underground water, percolation, underground storage, which we are tapping into at Nyamandlovu. Nyamandlovu, we've got two aquifer schemes. We've got the Rochester, then we've got the Epping Forest, which government stepped into last year and assisted the city, right, in terms of bringing Epping Forest online. So look at Gwaishangani, right, the catchment area, right. So that's just about the size of it. Mm.
Okay, so it was well planned. It was well laid out. You've got the land sources and then the underground. So we are beautifully placed. And what is the future for the city in terms of water supply? We are growing rapidly. Urban population is rising. What is the plan? What's the way forward?
The City of Bulawayo has what we call a water master plan. The water master plan is a guiding document which factors into cognitive the growth, not only of the population, but of industrial activity, because industry and commerce also plays a pivotal role in the development and well-being of our city. This water master plan, what components does it have? What detail does it have? It is a projection. Sorry, not before I get to projection. It is a record of our current state of affairs in terms of water. And then it projects now into the future to say, growing forward, growing, not going, but growing forward. What are our projected needs? How do we factor them into the situational equation so that we remain competitive in terms of industry as options for the investor, so that our residents, our consumers are also catered for within the global equation. So that is the water master plan. Right. It's not looking at water sources only. In water delivery, we've got what we call non-revenue water. Non-revenue water comprises of two elements. We've got apparent losses, then we've got physical losses. Physical losses bursts. We lose water in the form of bursts occurring. We've got leaks, right? Part of the master plan looks into that detail to say, okay, how do we minimize physical losses? How do we account for the water which we have treated and put it into the system? Right. We seek to get to a state whereby we can almost account for every drop that we've abstracted, every drop that we've treated, every drop that we've inputted into the system, by bringing our non-revenue water down. For example, what is our policy in terms of physical losses? If there is a burst, it should be attended to within 24 hours. If there is a burst, it should be. If by then we don't have means to attend to that burst, it has to be isolated. Stop the flow of water. Notify the stakeholders. Take out an advert that this area so and so, please note that a burst has occurred and we are working on it, so that the resident, industry and commerce can effectively then factor that into their operations. So thank you on that one.
So a burst has to be attended to within 24 hours. And I'd like to go back to the publicity though, because I'm old school, according to the younger ones. I'm a 2K. I think Kudala, there was an announcement van or something. Somebody would go around with a megaphone. If there are any issues of water, things like that and all that and all that. Is there a way of going back to old school means of telling people to have a car going around, say there's a water burst or water is going to be off or this and that and that? Because social media is amazing. It's great, it's convenient. But half the time, data is expensive. And there's no ZESA, we can't charge our gadgets and all those other things. Yes, you've done the part, you've put it on Facebook, you've done WhatsApp, but is there no other way? Can we not integrate old school and new school so that at the end of it all, we are conscientized, we are made aware, our children are made aware, they get used to it, and because new technology is amazing, but like I'm saying, it's got its shortcomings. And
thank you on that one, because if you realize we've got the aged, they're there in the homes, in the households. Some of them don't have access to these, to the social media and technology, right? Through our corporate communications arm, we also reach out to schools, right? One powerful way of conveying messages is through students, the learners. Once a message is propagated through learning institutions like schools, it is easy for the young ones to tell those ones at homes to say, akulamanzi, kuvaliwe kudubukile. But we would love, and we not, it's quite also relevant to explore the old approach to say, if we can have a van or a car, right, going to attend a particular area, to even announce it on loudspeaker, that would also enhance communication, because communication is essential. And as the City of Bulawayo, we value communication. We want to be constantly appraising our consumers, our residents, on what is happening. The resident has got a life to lead, which is based on service delivery. So that communication also is affecting planning at household level, in the office, in the industry. So that's why we do that. Thank you very much. We note that one.
Thank you. And because why I mention that is because sometimes as a resident, I feel that I'm only important when it's month end and the City of Bulawayo wants money from me. But when there's no communication, when it's not money related, I feel sometimes relegated. And that then brings me to the issue of, as a resident, I know I've got obligations, and what are some of my obligations as well, to say this is a two-way relationship. You're providing a service, and as much as I'm disgruntled and I'm not happy, but we're working on this, in the fact that we're having a conversation. But what is my role as a resident, whether I'm disgruntled, whether you've spoken to me or not, or whether you didn't give me a notice that you're going to shut off water? What can I do to help you, help me, help each other, give me a service, give you revenue, and get the city to next level?
Thank you so much. That's very crucial. As a resident, you said it's a partnership, right? And each partner to the partnership has got roles. First role, it's about us tracking our water use. We need to track our water use. How do we track our water use? Let's start at household level. I wake up, the Gwetu family wakes up at 4, 4:30. Right. I wake up at 4:30. What do? I take a bath. I have to know how much on average, how many liters of water on average do I use when I'm bathing? How many liters of water do the 2 school-going kids use on average? How much does Mrs. Gwetu use? Right. On bathing. On toiletry, we also need to know how much our system, every time we flush, how much on average are we using? Right. And then at daylight, we have to take the meter reading. Go take the meter reading yourself. At dawn, also at dusk. Let's learn to manage our water use by embarking on such simple activities. Then, after that, we can intelligently interpret our bills when they come. Right. And then the other role, besides monitoring our water usage, there are times when we isolate an area because there is a pest. Water goes. Let's keep those taps closed. Let's close the taps. When we have got kids in the household, you know the kids, just like when electricity goes, they want to be the first to take witness that water has come back. So what do? They leave the taps open. But guess what? When the water comes back, it's not about the water losses before people attend to closing the tap, which should bother us. Let me say this, let me describe this situation. there is a burst, we isolate. Then there is ingress or infiltration of air within the pipe network. Air. Then we come, we repair that certain section which was affected by the burst. What happens? We then open the valves for the area affected. As the water takes off its path in the pipe network, that air which had infiltrated needs to escape. Where does it escape? It goes out via the tap. And if the pressure is high, what does the air do to your water meter? It drives the water meter. Yes. So now, check something. You come to the City of Bulawayo and you say you did not drink as much water. But with us, we work with meter readings. Right. So one other major role as residents, which we need to do, we need to act responsible. Every time water goes, let's make sure our household taps are closed. Right. We are monitoring our consumption. We make sure our household taps are closed. And then, third issue, the City of Bulawayo, in terms of the local authority, does not have eyes all across the city. But the residents, who are the owners of Bulawayo, are all over the city. They are the city's eyes. They report. That's the third responsibility. Let's report water bursts which you take note of. You know, I'm proud to be associated with the City of Bulawayo. People, they WhatsApp me. Gwetu, there is a burst on what. Gwetu, even at night. It's not only me. Engineer Dhumani, the acting director of engineering services, right? Other team leaders, we've got principal engineers who are also, they get these messages, right? You don't have to know an engineer with the City of Bulawayo to alert the city. Any worker, we get some alarms from our fellow workers. Gwetu, a resident has just reported this to me. Can you take care of it? Right. Then we pass it to the relevant section. So it's part of our partnership, right? Now, you have reported a water burst. You have reported a leak. Your role has not ended. You go further. If it's a burst, we'll definitely take care of it, but we'll notify the affected areas. But what if it's a leak? Remember, a leak is different from a burst. Burst, 24 hours. Leaks, they may go over 24 hours. So, if you have reported it, 48 hours, the leak is still there. Can we safely say you have done your part, played your role as a resident? No. You take it up. Guys, I reported this leak, and you gave me reference number. When you report a leak or a burst, you are given a reference number generated by our call center via our corporate communications, right? You are given a reference number. That reference number which we give you, keep it. Use it as a follow-up, right? To say, guys, I reported this leak. It's now 48 hours. It's now 3 days. And it's still like that, right? And then, once you refer, we can then take it up and follow it up to say what happened, why is it are still like this. And you know what? Our call center, they now get back to you to say, good morning. Please note that further to your pursuance of the reference number, what, please note that it has been attended to. That's the partnership. That's where we want to be, and that's where we are. Right. But I know some of our residents, they will start saying, look, hey, you want me to keep phoning the city? I've reported, it's their responsibility. Yes, it's our responsibility, but remember, we are walking the walk together. So these are the responsibilities of partnership. With us as the City of Bulawayo, what are our responsibilities? What are our roles? Number one, we have to make sure, and we take pride in that every household has got water 24/7. In Bulawayo, once development is okayed, remember, from building services, you are building, developing, right? We're checking your foundations, we're checking your construction, we're certifying that it's good to go, up to giving you an occupation certificate. Then you apply for services like water connections, sewer connections, right? Once the dwelling has got water, has got sewer connection, you can occupy it. But check something. Before you occupy a development, you should have water connection, sewer connection. In Bulawayo, it's illegal for one to stay in a development without water, without a sewer connection. Where there are areas demarcated for septic tanks, you have got to have your water connection, and your septic tank has to be inspected that it's fit to receive your what? Your wastewater. So we make sure that every household has got water 24/7. Right. Not only water, we have to make sure that that water is of a specific standard. The water branch has got many sections, and one of the sections which are there is the water quality arm. The water quality arm samples raw water at our water sources, samples treatment processes, points during the treatment process, samples the product and treatment, samples the product, follows the product into the SEPAPs, sampling points. What's the quality of our water which we are giving the residents? Right. Now, then we have got an issue, right? We have got an issue like Mkanwini. There's been contamination of water. Right. We also have got a role again under those circumstances. Once residents report, who are our eyes, remember, report, there's a funny smell to our water, oh, there's this suspension in our water, we scramble a team to straight away isolate. We close off the water. The water quality samples the water. What is resident in water? Right. We repair the pests, because cross-contamination occurs when there are pests. There is infiltration of undesirables into clean water. Right. We flush the system. After flushing the system, we sample the water. Then we open up to residents. So this issue of responsibility is 24/7, both in good times and in bad times. Just like in a marriage, to death do us part.
When we are sending those messages, those pictures, it's not like a catastrophe, you have failed. We're doing our job. We're basically saying, I turned on my tap and the water is black. And you then do something about it. I don't know. I don't know if I'm putting across this point effectively. Say you are supposed to then send out those warnings, send out those pictures, and then you in turn do something about it. Because if we keep quiet, you're not going to be able to do something about it. So all feedback gets the job done. Yes. Engineer Gwetu, I would love to continue more because there's some other issues, but I'm hoping that we can address them in another conversation. But for this particular conversation, I think you have covered the histories, the water processing process, so many other issues that might not have been top of the mind for our residents and our viewers. And for that, I thank you very much. And do you have any last words for our viewers?
Thank you. Let's keep those reports coming in. Let's also pay for those bills, because service delivery is dependent also on resources. The finances are critical. We need to order those chemicals to make sure that the water which we deliver is of a particular quality level. Not only that, we also need to work on these repairs, and that costs money. So one other additional role is, let's pay our bills on time, that is timelessly. Let's report any issues which we see in terms of water losses. Let's not tire, let's make follow-ups. And finally, when there is a water problem and a team from the City of Bulawayo attends to the scene, please take note of the vehicle number. When you follow up, alert us to say reference number, which you gave me on such a day, reference number so and so, was attended by a team from BCC having vehicle number so and so. All our cars have got vehicle numbers by the side. BCC 847. Right. At times you don't necessarily need to know the names of those people. Right. But the vehicle number, it's enough for us to know that on such a day, BCC 847 attended to this scene. But the job was not satisfactorily done. So this is working the work together towards improved service delivery. I thank you.
Engineer Gwetu, thank you so much for a very informative conversation. And as I mentioned, we will try and get you back for other conversations regarding water supplies in the city of Bulawayo. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much for having me.
The one takeaway for me from this conversation is water usage is a habit. And what are your habits at home? Monitor your water consumption. It also helps you to realize if there's any issue that you might not be aware of, if there's an underground leak or something. If you have a generally good idea of your everyday consumption, it will help you pick up the issue faster. And remember to close your taps when there is water shedding. And let's report, because it takes you and me to build a better Bulawayo. That's all we have on the Breakfast Club. My name is Sizwakele Ndlovu. Thank you so much for watching. And we have an app and a number that we'll put in our bio. We have a Fix My City number that you can report any issues on births and any other issues as well. Site is powering that. So we will put the number in our link in our bio, well, yes, in the description. And that's a number to give us a call. And the number also has an app. Well, the Fix My City has an app, and you can log on to that and report any other issues. With that said, thank you so much for supporting and watching Asake Online, and it's bye for now.